What's up, everybody out there in podcast land? This is another episode of Drumroll Please. Zach and EJ talk sports. And if there is one thing to know about this podcast, for all four listeners out there, it is whenever we are not on the air, major stuff in sports happen. I don't know what it is about us, but whenever we are in between episodes, the sports world goes absolutely crazy. But we've been in between episodes for a good reason. My man here is anchoring down the Westfield Blue Devils. Made the freshman baseball team. Catcher.
Yep.
Why don't you, before we start today's podcast, why don't you give us a little breakdown of the squad, how you model your game as a catcher, and what your predictions are for the season. What can we expect from freshman Blue Devil baseball this year, and Zach behind the plate?
It depends, because in our first scrimmage we did lose 18-1, but we were playing a very, very good team. I think we'll have a pretty good season, but not as good as it could be.
What number are you going to wear this year?
It depends what jersey I'm given, I believe.
Oh, so you don't get to pick your number.
We don't have our jerseys yet. We're getting them on Monday.
And who do you model your game after? If we were going to come watch Zach behind the plate, who would you say you kind of emulate?
I was considering saying Gary Sanchez, but I was just kind of a joke. Probably someone like Christian Vasquez, more of a defensive catcher than offensive, but I can hit a bit. And
how's the pitching staff looking?
It's looking okay.
Now tell me, as a catcher, what are some of the toughest things? I was a middle infielder. I was shortstop, second baseman. In college, strictly second baseman. But never actually had much time behind the plate, even in like little league and things like that. So I always was very jealous of catchers. They looked like they were having a lot of fun back there. Very active position to play in baseball, which, you know, when you're losing 18-1 and you're standing in the outfield, it can feel pretty long. But pitching and catching, you're constantly in the mix. But what would you say are some of the underrated aspects about being a catcher that most people out there don't know?
Well, it could be if your pitcher's not pitching good, it's not a fun position to play. Because, really, you can do your best to frame the pitch and all, but there's nothing you can do. When your pitcher's pitching great and there's not much you have to do, you just got to catch the ball, maybe a bit of framing. It's great. It's fun. It's a bit tough to plan out your, like, at-bats, because if you're, like, in the hole and there's 2 outs and you have your shin guards on, you got to, like, move them around. But it's a fun position to play.
All right, give us an over or under. This year, Zach Latessa will catch how many base runners stealing?
Depends what base we're talking about. Total?
Total base.
I'm going to estimate probably about 3 at second, and probably, I'll say, like, 4 at third. So, like, 7 total.
Nice. All right, I like that. That'll get you a contract extension.
The 3 at second's a bit high, maybe. I might move it to 5 at
Don't back
third
it down
and
now.
2 at second.
Ride or die with your numbers. I like it. All right, well, while we can talk baseball and Zach behind the plate all day long, we do have a super fun and action-packed show for you today. We are going to launch into some March Madness, which truly has lived up to the name March Madness. We're going to talk a little about the NFL offseason, which has gone bonkers. We may even throw in a couple Super Bowl contenders now that the NFL landscape is reshaping. We're then going to transition to Major League Baseball, which, surprise, surprise, is back. Zach's going to tell us about who he feels the best players in baseball are right now, some early World Series predictions, also kind of discuss which teams have made some strides in the MLB offseason, and we will finish up with a little NBA, some finals picks. But let's launch into what has had the sports world captivated, which has been March Madness. Why don't you break it down for me and tell me what your impression this year of March Madness has been and how you're doing in your brackets, my brother.
It's been crazy because March Madness, usually the first few rounds for the top seed is pretty light. You're just getting ready to face the Dukes and the Kentuckys of college basketball. But this year, it's shown that all 64 teams who made it 100% deserve to make it. The madness started going crazy when St. Peter's beat Kentucky in the first round. I know that was tough for a few people who had picked Kentucky to go very far, but St. Peter's, very fun team from New Jersey. They have the guy Doug. Doug is super cool. Doug signed a sponsorship deal with Buffalo Wild Wings during the tournament. Yeah, they have a game the day we're filming this, and I hope they win. I'm excited to see how far they go. And just like Gonzaga and Arizona both lost yesterday. So the 1 seeds are dropping.
Right.
Personally, I picked Purdue to win it all because I know Purdue is a very good team. They have Jaden Ivey, who's an amazing player. Overall, though, in my bracket, I was just picking who I was feeling. I had Purdue beating Providence in the final game, which is still alive right now. Then I had Gonzaga and Arizona. It's my other two in the Final Four.
For a full link to see Zach's bracket, check out the show description below. But why don't you tell me right now the most shocking upset to you and the upset that did not surprise you?
I'm going to say that I feel like how far UNC has made it, I'm not very surprised because I watched UNC games during the year. As you can see, I'm wearing a UNC jersey. I am a UNC fan, and I think UNC is a very solid team. They've got good depth. They've just got playmakers over the floor. And then, I already mentioned it, the St. Peter's one was just shocking. Right. Just going in, I didn't even know who St. Peter's was. Couldn't have told you who their mascot, what state they were from.
Meanwhile, they're only a couple towns away.
And I didn't even consider picking them in the first round. I was just like, Kentucky, they're winning. And it was super surprising when they won. I was just kind of like, what just happened?
Right. So we're rolling with Purdue. We got Purdue winning this. They're still alive. What is your thought about why the number 1 seeds have struggled so much in this tournament? Do you feel that these ones weren't true ones, or do you feel that maybe there was a level of overconfidence going into this? What are your thoughts? Or is it just that you feel there's more of a level playing field this year, that there's more parity amongst a lot of these teams?
I feel like the 1 seeds were deserved. You really never know about Gonzaga because they do play in a pretty weak conference, but they were a very good team. I would say the 1 seeds are deserved, but there's like a lot of pressure on them to perform in the big spot. And because of the parity, it's not an NBA 7-game playoff series where usually the best team has chances to catch their footing if they slip. One mistake and it's over. It's a 1 game, just full out. Teams like St. Peter's are going to do everything they can to beat you, and they can.
Yeah, I mean, those teams go in loaded with enthusiasm and momentum because it's their opportunity to shock the world on a major stage. Any player in particular so far in the tournament that has caught your eye?
I feel like I could say Doug because Doug has been amazing. But watching Gonzaga, even though they were eliminated, Drew Timme looks very, very. He's a very good player. I'm not sure what year he is. He might come back for another year. I don't know if he's a senior or not. But I think he's a very good player. And then on Villanova, I'm not a Villanova fan. I've been rooting against Villanova this year. And I hate Colin Gillespie. But he is an amazing player. Just whatever. I hate Villanova. They don't make mistakes. They're so consistent. Every game they should win, they usually win. They're just like an even line. They just keep on. They keep going. So consistent. Colin Gillespie, even in the games he's not playing great, he'll come out in the second half and he'll just be firing him. He's a smart player, and he can shoot. And they have a good chance of going very, very far. They could possibly win it all, looking at the playing field.
Which NBA team do you feel he'd be the best fit for?
That's the thing, because Colin Gillespie, as good as he is, he might not get drafted. He probably won't. If he will, it'll be in the second round because he's like a 5th year, 6th year. He might be a 6th year because of COVID senior. He's really old. He's probably like 23, 24 already. But I feel like a contending team, I'm not sure exactly which team, but a contending team that not a star player away, but just needs a steady hand. I think he'd be a good fit on that team.
Okay. Well, who knows? With the way that this tournament's been going so far, we'll see what those brackets look like after this upcoming weekend. But let's move now to something that has been equally as tumultuous, and that is the NFL offseason. It's been going crazy. My Dolphins, who were sitting around with cobwebs growing around that office for the first half of this offseason, have now picked it up and started showing some signs of life, making some major moves. But why don't you walk down the NFL offseason for us and tell me what you think of the move so far, and who the big winners are, and any potential losers in this.
Yeah, the landscape of the NFL has changed a lot. Some great receivers, Tyreek and Devontae Adams, both left their teams, and both harmed their teams. Devontae Adams is as good as Cooper Kupp was last year. As much as I like Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams is still the best receiver in football. And he's now on the Raiders. That Raiders team looks scary. I don't know if they're good enough to win it all yet, but they'll definitely be like fighting for the playoffs. They were fine for the playoffs last year, actually.
They made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs, and they improved. Tyreek Hill, I don't think Tyreek Hill is as good as many people in the media say he is. I think he's a very good player. I don't think he's a great top-tier receiver.
Would you call him overrated, like Cooper Kupp?
I would, except I'm going to be right about Tyreek Hill. I think
everybody right now, hedge your bets. Fantasy players out there, go heavy on Tyreek Hill. Zach has declared him overrated.
I feel like without like the superstar QB of Patrick Mahomes, especially it's going from like the two opposites, going from Patrick Mahomes the best to Tua. Yeah. Tua.
I'll tell you what, my favorite part of the Dolphins acquiring Hill have been all the Tua memes that are all over the internet. They're hysterical. I've lost too much time and have put a massive dent in my personal productivity because I've been looking at all these hysterical Tua memes about how he can't get the ball 15 yards down the field to Hill. But with that and the consensus right now is that the AFC West has just absolutely like loaded up. But any particular moves out there right now that you found yourself scratching your head with, or anything that you feel is actually going to be something that eventually could, depending on how the contract was set up, or the money, or the draft picks that were given, could actually set a franchise back?
I'm very confused with what the Jaguars are doing this offseason. So the Jaguars are hopefully going to make some smart picks in the draft and really build their team around Trevor Lawrence and hope he can bounce back. But I don't think the way to do that is to sign Christian Kirk. And nothing against Christian Kirk. I had him in fantasy last year. He was decent. I might have dropped him, actually. But he was decent. He's a good player, an NFL player. They paid him before Tyreek Hill. Now that Tyreek Hill has been paid, he's the fourth highest paid receiver in football. That's just absurd because he's okay. I don't think he's going to be the reason Trevor Lawrence turns it around. And I don't think he fits with that franchise. I feel like if someone like the Chiefs or Packers, who are desperate for a receiver now, need to bring him in to like bolster their contention, I don't think he's going to be that helpful to the Jaguars rebuild. And I think they're just going to be like, they're not going to have the money now because they're paying him so much money.
Well, so let's actually, the two teams you just mentioned were the two teams that I had circled, and the Packers, I'm very intrigued by. But has Scantling officially signed with the Chiefs yet, or?
I believe if he's not official, he's going to, though.
So the Chiefs pick up Juju and Scantling.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, and the Chiefs, this is a receiver-heavy draft, and obviously they just took a ton of picks from Miami, so they can rebuild. The team that I'm scratching my head with, and would like your thoughts on, are the Packers. So you go and you literally break the bank for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you smash the bank, but you actually fail to bring back any of his two favorite wide receivers. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really quite sure what's going on there. Now, given hindsight, I don't know if I would have brought in Rodgers back, and maybe I would have kept Adams and Scantling and either brought in a veteran quarterback. I mean, you probably could bring in you would have been able to bring in Mayfield if Rodgers decided to walk, or you would be able to trade Rodgers, re-sign these guys, and have the capital that you would have acquired from dealing Rodgers. So put on your GM hat here and tell me what the heck the Packers are doing.
So I'm laughing at Aaron Rodgers because every year how they're the 1 seed, they're the best team in football, and every year in the playoffs they choke. This year they lost to the 49ers, who they went on an amazing run, and they were a very good team. Their QB was Jimmy Garoppolo. You have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. You shouldn't lose to the Niners. And just Aaron Rodgers is obviously one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in football. One of the best quarterbacks of all time. He can't get it done in the playoffs, and that's his main issue. But I have no problem with bringing Aaron Rodgers back. but they took the piggy bank and spiked it on the ground. And because of that, they lost all of their major players. Yeah. And without Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be like Aaron Rodgers playing with a JV high school team. And if they already couldn't win in the playoffs, I don't know what they're going to do now. I don't think they're that top level of team anymore because they lost their two best receivers. Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers come back, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be coming back yay, I get to throw to Alan Lazard as my top receiver. I think he's going to come back what just happened?
Yeah.
Why did I lose Devontae and Marquez Valdes?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're banking on the fact that Tanyan will come back healthy, and, he has a good, solid connection with Rodgers and obviously Lazard. But I'm with you. I really don't see it. That move had me really scratching my head, especially because Rodgers had been so vocal, saying if he played anywhere, he wanted the team to seriously consider bringing Adams and Scantling on board, and that those were his two guys. So literally, he comes back for a boatload of money, but loses the top two receivers he has a great connection with. So it does sound like they're going to have to really rely heavily on Lazard and Tanyan, and I mean, I would not really feel that great about it. I mean, obviously they're going to try and grab somebody in the draft, but to build that kind of rapport with a quarterback, especially a rookie, and then a seasoned veteran like Rodgers would be, unless they get a true burner. But I don't really know. That had me scratching my head. So they're my favorite as far as looking at and seeing how this shapes out for them. The Dolphins, they made some predictable moves as far as Edmonds, Mostert. Mm-hmm. It's clear that that McDaniel wants to run the ball, and he's going to try to recreate that 49ers run scheme. The Browns coming in at the last second and getting Deshaun Watson, and now with Mayfield still on the roster because they're not. It doesn't appear right now that anybody's really jumping
because they're trying to get a first round pick.
Yeah, which they're not. You're not going to get a first round pick for a guy that you openly shopped, and made clear that you were going to try to get Deshaun Watson. And then secretly and quietly and completely not extravagant and flamboyant is Matt Ryan to the Colts.
Yeah.
And that trade kind of just represents Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan has never been a very, flashy quarterback, has always been very quiet. But to the Colts, I mean, that's a major upgrade from, Carson Wentz. And the funny thing is, the Colts actually come out of this ahead. So when you review the trade and you look at what they got from the Commanders, who greatly overpaid for Carson Wentz, the Colts come out of this ahead because they got rid of Wentz's salary, who was actually making more than Ryan, and they got back some draft picks. So they'll be very interesting to watch. And Ryan to Pittman will be very fascinating, and then also whether or not the Colts bring in Julio.
Yeah, I feel I think they did do a good job this offseason. I don't think Carson Wentz was the move there. But overall, as a quarterback, ignoring salaries and all that, I think Carson Wentz is just as good as Matt Ryan. I think...
Really?
I do. I think on Washington, I don't know how good he'll be on Washington. I think Washington should stick with Taylor Heineke, because I love Taylor Heineke. But I think when I look at Matt Ryan, I look at him, they have different skill sets, but I think they're about the same. I mean, as good of a player. I feel like Carson Wentz, when healthy, and I'm hoping he stays healthy, he's better than Matt Ryan. And if he's not healthy, that's where it comes down to they're about even.
Well, I always appreciate your hot takes, my friend. Carson Wentz better than Matt Ryan. That's a hot take. I fall on the other side. I like Ryan. I feel Ryan is much more of a seasoned quarterback, which that particular team needs when you have an amazing run game. You have some young, talented receivers and a great defense. If you look at last year and the Colts, I don't think Matt Ryan loses to the Jags in that spot that Carson Wentz did that let that knocked Indy out of the playoffs. Also, that crazy pick that he threw from his goal line against Tennessee. I don't think Ryan that they ended up losing that game in overtime. I don't think Ryan makes that throw. But again, this is all speculation. But if I was a GM and I had to sign Ryan or Wentz, I'd sign Ryan. I feel that he seems to be more of a locker room guy as well, but that's all speculation as far as things you hear about what players say or who is and who isn't liked inside an NFL locker room. But it's definitely going to be a very, very exciting NFL year, and there's still a lot of moves to be made. I mean, have the Giants settled on a quarterback? Are they basically saying that they're going to go with Danny Dimes? This year, and Mayfield's still sitting out there. Is Seattle going to go with Locke or exactly? Are they going to?
And the Mitch Trubisky redemption tour is starting week 1. I don't know who they're playing, but Mitch Trubisky, Pro Bowl 2022.
I saw the best meme for Mitch Trubisky, and I'll do the best I can to describe it to anybody that's seen, but I'm sure you could probably search it and find it. So the header says, Mitch Trubisky playing quarterback in the AFC North, and the picture is 3 Navy SEALs against a wall, and sandwiched in between the 3 Navy SEALs, so it's 2 Navy SEALs, and then there's another guy who's dressed up literally like a clown, holding a gun, and then one more Navy SEAL, which basically is Mitch Trubisky, compared to the other quarterbacks in the AFC North, which I found hysterical. So as you guys can probably tell, between the Tua memes, the Trubisky memes, I've spent my time watching lots of memes recently. So I need to put the memes aside and get back and start looking at some stats and crunching some numbers so I can hang with you on these podcasts. But leaving the NFL behind, and we will pick up with the NFL again when the draft comes around. Let's move on because we finally have some baseball. And why don't you talk me through right now who you feel the best player in baseball is, which teams have been positioning themselves to be true World Series contenders.
Okay, so in my opinion, the top 6 players in no order in baseball is pretty obvious. It's not really that, you can't make that much argument. It's Juan Soto, Mike Trout, Ronald Acuna, Fernando Tatis, Jacob deGrom, and Vladimir Guerrero. Those are the 6. Shohei Ohtani is not one of the 6 best players in baseball. And then when you look at those, deGrom is probably the best when you look at deGrom. But the fact that deGrom's a pitcher, you can't put him number 1. You can't say, through a full season, I'd rather have this guy who pitches every 4 days than, in my opinion, the best player in baseball, Juan Soto. And Juan Soto is, I think, when Mike Trout plays, Juan Soto is very close to, if not better, than Mike Trout. But also, Mike Trout, every year, he never plays a full season. And Juan Soto's what, 23? Yeah, already has 1 more ring than Mike Trout. Many more playoff wins. I don't. And the best ability is availability. If you're telling me Mike Trout is only going to play like 80 games, which is what he plays like every year, then Juan Soto's playing 160, 150. Obviously, Juan Soto's better. So, I'll take Juan Soto.
Well, when you quote Bill Parcells, how can I argue with Parcells type logic with the best ability is availability? That's absolutely true. And, Soto, I do agree Soto's an up-and-coming player. I feel right now Trout is probably still the best player in baseball, but that's a 1 and 1A. And when we do make the argument about games played and staying healthy, I do think that does tip the scales towards Soto. But if we're moving from players to organizations, what have you liked and disliked about the Major League Baseball offseason regarding which teams have positioned themselves or moved themselves out of contention for a World Series title?
So, I'm going to put it in the middle tier. I kind of like it, the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves ended up swapping Freddie Freeman. Pretty much they lost him to the Dodgers, and they gained Matt Olson. They also lost Jorge Soler, and besides that, they mostly brought back their roster, which won the championship last year. But I feel like Matt Olson is only a slight downgrade over Freddie Freeman. He's very close to Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman's definitely better, but he's still an amazing player. I just don't like how you let the face of your franchise just leave like that. And I think people might say the Kevin Durant comparison with Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers. I disagree because one, Freddie Freeman's team was already good, and also I don't know how factual this is, But I heard that the Braves only reached out to Freddie Freeman twice during the offseason. Like, this player, who's a free agent, considering other options, face of your franchise, they're just like, yeah, you can come back if you want to. You gotta bring him back. But just getting Matt Olson's not bad. With Acuna back, they'll still be really good next year. In that same tier is the Red Sox, my Red Sox. I love the Trevor Story deal. I just don't like how we didn't bring in any, like, we brought in a bunch of journeyman pitchers, like, seeing if any of them will work out. I feel like we could have brought in some more, like, proven, like, arms who we know are going to come in and be electric. Right. Because especially we lost Erod. Right now, you look at our rotation, you're like, you got Nathan Eovaldi. I like that. Nathan Eovaldi was amazing last year. And you got Chris Sale, who hasn't... Chris Sale's played, like, 4 games over the last, like, 4 years. So, I don't... And then, you look at the good. Obviously, the Dodgers. You got Freddie Freeman, and then the Mets. The Mets have had an amazing offseason, bringing in Starling Marte, bringing in Max Scherzer, who, while they may have overpaid him a bit, he's Max Scherzer. Yeah. Next year, he's going to come in and be amazing. Maybe by the time when you're paying him like $40 million a year and he's 40 3 years from now, you might be like, oh man, we still have Max Scherzer. But right now, he's going to be amazing. He's going to help them a lot. You guys also brought in Eduardo Escobar. I think Robinson Cano's coming back. I think the odds are probably like 1 in 15 that he gets suspended for PEDs before the season starts. But, yeah, you guys are looking good.
Been there and done that with the Mets, man. We'll be talking in early May about how could this team be as bad as they are. So I know where this Mets train is heading, but I need you to talk about something else. To me, I cannot, and I will not, buy into the Padres. I am off the Padres. I'm tired of hearing about the Padres. I'm tired of seeing these guys on the cover of MLB The Show and everything else and hearing the Padres are loaded, the Padres this, the Padres that, and nothing. So why don't you tell me what I'm missing about the Padres, or why you feel this year might be different than with the Padres, or maybe you agree with me, which I doubt, but where do you stand on the Padres right now?
The way I feel about the Padres is I don't agree with you. I think the Padres will be near a playoff spot, and if they get in the playoffs, I wouldn't want to face them, just for the sole fact that at 1 every 9 hitters, you have to face Fernando Tatis Jr. And I feel like the Padres are very similar to the Atlanta Hawks, because the Atlanta Hawks aren't having a great year this year. They'll be in the play-in. The Atlanta Hawks, you don't know what you're going to get. They might come out and they might be amazing. That's pretty much because of Trae Young. Mm-hmm. They might come out, and even if Trae Young has a good game or a bad game, they might just be bad. They might just be like an awful team, and that's why they're the 10th seed.
Okay.
And I feel like the Padres, last year they were going through the All-Star break, they were competing with the Giants, the Dodgers, and then that Tatis got injured. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly they were the Orioles. They were the Marlins. They were just, well, Marlins aren't as bad anymore, but they were just awful. Mm-hmm. They were terrible. And then Tatis came back, but he didn't really.
Right.
He came back, hit like 2 homers in his first game back, then hit like 2 more the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. Which I'm kind of salty about because I pulled off a big trade for Tatis while he was injured in fantasy baseball, and then got 4th place. But I feel like if Tatis is healthy, which he's having like setbacks with his wrist, he might not play till partway through the season. I say if you're the Padres, you try to float till Tatis comes back. Once he comes back, he needs to be 100%, and I hope you can make the playoffs. I would almost agree with you, though, just because of how awful without Tatis they were last year. I don't know if you can count on anyone else, even Manny Machado, on that team besides Tatis. Right. So, it's interesting. I think it definitely could go your way. They could only win like 70 games. You might be like, what's happening to this Padres team? But they could also play like they did in the first half and win closer to 100.
Here we go. First bite at this apple. World Series prediction. World Series teams will be.
So, for this, I'm going to exclude the Dodgers. Because if I was including the Dodgers would win it all in possibly 4 games. But if the Dodgers did not exist in this universe, I think the New York Mets will win the NL. Because we know the pitching. They have great pitching. Their bullpen's questionable. Because you don't... Edwin Diaz.
Right.
But their starting pitching is amazing. And their lineup, I'm not a Mets fan, but I'm a huge Pete Alonso fan. I think Pete Alonso is going to hit like 45 home runs next year. I think he'll probably lead the league. Just because you watch him in the home run derby, you're like, how is this guy just not hit a home run every time he's up? He's insane. The rest of their lineup is now more well-rounded with Marte. They have a guy who can get on base, swipe a bag, and then they're a base hit away from a run. I feel like in the NL, which isn't, besides the Dodgers, which isn't as loaded, I feel like the AL is better. I'm going to take them. Then the AL, I have a team who didn't make the playoffs last year. I would love to say the Red Sox. I'm not going to. The Yankees aren't even close. I don't think the Yankees are going to make it. And I'm going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays to win the AL. I love their team. They lost Semien, which is very big, but I think they're fine. They brought in Matt Chapman, who hopefully is back to before last year Matt Chapman, because he was so good, and then last year his bat was just kind of not as good. And I feel like they have the lineup, they have the pitching, they have a nice mold where I feel like in a tough series, they can pitch themselves, keep them in a close game, where then that lineup can just deliver.
Okay. I wanted to walk in and say I see Philadelphia and Toronto in the World Series. But now, since you've taken Toronto, I am going to go and put the Phillies in the World Series against another former team they played in the World Series. And I'm going to say Phillies and Rays in the World Series.
I like that because I am insanely high on Wander Franco. And I don't want to say this now because I'm not going to put it in stone. But I think Wander Franco has a very good chance of winning MVP next year.
Put it in stone, buddy. Hot take by Zach. In stone.
I think another team, which I definitely could have considered, was the White Sox.
Yeah.
I like this White Sox team. Just they have good pitching. They're pitching so well rounded. And then their lineup, I think Eloy Jimenez rakes. He rakes.
I like it. So you heard it here first. Mets in the World Series, which if God bless you, man. But let's close out today's show with a little NBA. So we're kind of in cruise control right now. We've passed the trade deadline. Now it's all about jockeying for position to make it into the NBA playoffs, which is basically a whole second season, and then on to the finals. So why don't you give me right now what you feel that playoff picture is shaping up to be, and which teams you feel are truly at this point in time where we have a very, very good look at what these guys are doing, have a real chance at competing for that title.
I feel like in the West is not as loaded as it used to be. The East is the better conference. And the West, it all depends on one thing. If Chris Paul is healthy, the Suns will cakewalk into the NBA Finals. I don't think even the Lakers, I'm done with this Lakers team. It's not like maybe the Lakers, no. The Lakers are done. The Lakers might not even win in the play-in tournament. That's how bad they are. I think Chris Paul is healthy. Just Devin Booker's amazing. I think Devin Booker should be right up there with Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jokic, and Embiid in the MVP conversation. Notice how I threw Jason Tatum in there because actually on the MVP ladder he is now number 4. If he's not healthy, then I feel like it'll be a lot more of a fight. I feel like the Jazz, the Mavs, especially the Grizzlies. I think if John Morant's healthy, then the Grizzlies could also put up a fight. But with Chris Paul and if everyone's healthy, the Suns win. I think the Suns are so good. They have Mikal Bridges, who there's one person I wouldn't want guarding me. It's Mikal Bridges. And that with the fact that he can also shoot the 3 on the offensive end. Got Devin Booker, who I've said enough about Devin Booker. Not only is he possibly the best scorer in the NBA, not point per game wise, just how he can score at any level, everything. I saw this play from the other night. He really wants to win. He hustled for in a sequence 5 straight loose balls on this one weird play. And he was he wants to win. He got Chris Paul, and Chris Paul is probably the best player to never have a ring. And that's not saying all-time rank, but just because he's a winning player. That's what Chris Paul does. He wins. Every year he's in the playoffs, but he can never just get over the hump. In clutch time, Chris Paul is the best out of anyone. I like Chris Paul taking the last shot over players like Damian Lillard. He plays defense. He passed the ball. They got Aiden. They got a good bench. And then the East. The East is tough. There's so many teams that could really win it. Because you look at it, I'm going to say the Bulls are probably going to lose in the first round. This Bulls team coming into the year had mediocre expectations. And they were amazing at the beginning of the year. And then injuries and everything. Now they're just bad. Yeah. They're just bad. As a Celtics fan, we play them in the first round. I'm happy with that. Because there's also the option of playing the Nets. And no one wants to play the Nets because now Kyrie's going to be playing in home games. And I don't know if they have the role players besides those guys. Because, once again, they don't play defense.
Right.
They don't play defense. That's going to kill them. They don't play defense. Ben Simmons is healthy. Whew. Yeah. I'm just going to assume Ben Simmons isn't playing the rest of this year. Then you look at the Sixers. The Sixers have the best duo in the NBA. They're insane. They're just kind of inconsistent. The Bucks, the Heat, the Celtics. So I'm going to leave it to those 5 teams. I don't think the Heat will win it. The Heat are the 1 seed. They're only up 1.5 games on the Celtics, 1.5 games on the Sixers, and 1 game on the Bucks. But I feel like they're not really. They're pretenders. I don't think in that series Jimmy Butler's offensive inconsistencies might show. Jimmy Butler is a great player when he's good, but
right.
Sometimes he's just not. Like, he can't hit a 3 to save his life.
Sometimes
like, everyone makes fun of Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons. Both of those guys could probably make more threes than Jimmy Butler. Okay. And then leaves 3 teams. And the way I look at it, the Sixers and Bucks are both good. But compared to the Celtics, the way the Celtics are playing right now, I think they beat them. And I am a Celtics fan, but I've been watching the Celtics game. This is not the same team that we've seen for the last 4 years. Not the same team that played at the beginning of the season. This team is gonna win, and they want to win. Marcus Smart, who I was saying they should trade like every 4 seconds at the beginning of the year, he has not only become more consistent offensively, he is still the heart and soul of the team. Robert Williams is amazing. Possibly a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Jaylen Brown is such a good second option. You can just lean on him. He still plays good defense. Derek White was a great trade. Our role players are stepping up. Peyton Pritchard. Then we got Jason Tatum. I push for Jason Tatum to be considered a top 10 player in the NBA. That might be a bit too low. Yeah, I think it should start being a debate if he's top 5. He is just that good. Night in, night out, right now, in the second half. He's just going to give you 35 a game. And now he's not only shooting that sidestep jumper. He's taking efficient shots. He's shooting the ball efficiently. And he can pass the ball. Like, Luka Doncic can pass the ball. He can do the behind the back. Jason Tatum doesn't get the same assist numbers as Luka Doncic. He can pass the ball just as good. Like, he's being double-teamed. He looks over the defense and fires a pass to the other corner. And because of that, I'm taking the Celtics to win in probably 7 games over the Bucks or the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Then Suns versus Celtics. As much as I'd love to say the Celtics win, what the Celtics do, everything the Celtics do, I think the Suns do better. This Suns team is just a powerhouse. And this is with Chris Paul. I'm assuming Chris Paul is playing. If Chris Paul plays, the Suns will beat the Celtics in the NBA Finals. I think it'll go to 6 games. It'll be pretty close. The Celtics will put up a fight. This Suns team is just way too good. I think they're going to win the NBA Finals in 6 games.
Well, listen, I am not going to argue your conviction on the Celtics. All you need to do is start beating the table to add emphasis to it. I mean, that got me fired up. I am with you. I like the Suns right now. I just don't see anything coming out of the West that is gonna match what they're capable of doing. Again, unless they just have a down series and get upset. But I really do think it's their title to lose. Coming out of the East, there's nobody that really excites me. I mean, like you said, the Celtics are a great team. Are they like a sexy pick? Not really, but they are a fun team to watch. The Sixers, I think, have a lot of intrigue around them. The Nets just can't stay healthy. I mean, that's been their theme now for God knows how long. And then really it just boils down to, are the Bucks just, with a title under their belt and some veterans on the squad, are they just biding their time till they get into playoffs and then really start making that run like we've seen a lot of great teams in the past do? Teams like the Spurs, Teams like, the Warriors, like the Bulls used to do.
The Cavs every year LeBron was on there.
Exactly, 100%. So the Bucks, I think, are a team that I wouldn't want to face, or I'd be reluctant to judge them based off their seed. Is pretty much the way I look. I feel that, I could see either the Celtics or the Bucks coming out of the East. But I'm gonna differ with one thing. While the Suns, I think are a clear cut to come out of the West, I don't think that they are clear cut to win the title. I definitely feel that the Celtics, could play with them, and the Bucks as well. I mean, Tatum or Giannis, I think are two players that have the capability of being able to take over a series. And again, if it's coming down to one game, and while Chris Paul has had a lot of clutch moments, I would feel in a game 7, I would feel more comfortable having Tatum on my side or Giannis than Paul. But you do make a very compelling argument for that, and it's going to be something fun to watch. So we have gone around the sporting world today for everybody, and we are going to put a bow on this show by saying that Zach has given us a ton of hot takes. In addition, make sure you check out the Westfield Blue Devils. If you're ever in the area for a game, come see Zach behind the plate. We're going with 7 caught runners this year, stealing bases. So what we need to know is don't steal on Zach. Any final thoughts, my friend?
I don't think so, EJ.
Well put. All right, everybody. Have an awesome time. We will see you next. Till then, keep rocking.